that was just a strategy that I think most people don't go all in on, and I was just going all in on.
Obviously, things start to scale pretty quick, like rapidly, and you were just growing, hiring teams and stuff. What would you say now is like, let's open up the first secret, which to us, to everyone, of you really growing. And I think, to be fair, anyone that knows you or doesn't know you now can go and look up Jay Kinder will agree that this first point still exists now, and it will pay dividends for the rest of your life.
Right.
Yep.
That's 100% right. It was, and I would probably reverse the order that I would talk about these, because I focused on listings. That was the first thing, and then I built my brand, and that's what built my brand actually. And so the strategy of focusing on listings, first of all, once I started getting listings, guess what started happening? I started getting buyers. So if most real estate agents, if you're, the agents that I've coached over the years that have come to me, and if I look at where their money's being invested, generally they're buying lead generation stuff around on the buy side of the business. And the problem with it is it doesn't scale, and it doesn't, there's only so you spend. I think we tracked it, and we did a study, and I think we came up with the average buyer you would spend 21 hours with, and the average seller you'd spend less than 3 hours with. And so, you're getting, the amount of time that you're spending with a seller. I could work with take 5 listings in a day, which is what at the height of my business, what I was doing in the afternoons was every hour and a half I had a listing appointment. And so I could work with a whole lot more sellers than I could buyers. And so, at a certain point, I kind of had to stop working with buyers because I had more listing opportunities than I could get to. And that's when I started building a team, and I'm one of the few people that I know of that's ever done this. Not to say that, not bragging, because I wouldn't do it again, but I had done 233 transactions in 1 year, and I didn't have any buyer's agents until they didn't even exist. Even at Keller Williams, the Red Book hadn't even come out at this point. And so I think the buyer's agents that I hired in November. So they may or may not have closed anything that year, but I know I did 233 deals. And so I had 4 staff at that point. I had 2 transaction coordinators helping manage transactions, and a listing coordinator, and then I think just kind of a catch-all type receptionist position. And that was after having failed miserably at my first 5 people that I ever hired to help me, right? But eventually I got kind of clear on what I needed to get off my plate. And it was mainly stuff I didn't like doing anyways, right? So I wasn't even very good at it. I didn't like doing it. And I got to get that stuff off of my plate and do what I was really good at. And that was a really big gift for me. But focusing on the listing side of the business is a choice. I chose working FSBOs and expireds versus spending money in other types of leads or whatever. And starting to get signs up in people's yards. I also liked anytime there was a FSBO or expired that was on a corner lot, I would do whatever I had to do. That's 2 signs. That's 2 pieces of marketing that I get to put out there with my signs. And so that was that strategy of focusing on getting listings, even into marketing as I started to build the business. I invested a ton I did billboards, I did radio, I did TV. Eventually I did TV. That was the last thing I did. I did direct mail. I did all of those things. And ultimately, the focusing on the listing side of the business, the buy side takes care of itself. You're going to get buyers. I was double ending half of my listings anyways, just because I knew, when I talked to a buyer, I would, hey, well, have you heard about this one we just listed or whatever? And so, that was, and that's what built my brand. So, the second point that really made me very difficult, and I hate to say this now because I was number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker, and I was also number 2 in my own market. So I had a Remax team that I competed against that was selling 750 homes a year when I was selling 500. So they were always about 100 units ahead of me. And so let me tell you, I competed against them. I feel like every day. It felt like every day. It felt like every listing appointment I ever went on, I had to compete against Pam and Barry. The best part about my competition was that they always, and I mean always, would drop the commission to 4% if they knew they were competing against me. So not only did I have a competitor that was selling more homes than me and basically could say anything I could say and they were better, right? And they were also willing to do it for less. And so I had to learn how to compete and win. And I charged, most of my career, I charged 6%. I started charging 7%, I think in 2004 or 5, something like that. And then for the rest of my career, I charged more than anybody. And that was again, by choice, but it's because I learned how to differentiate my value proposition in a way to be able to charge more money. If you have more value, you can charge more. That's still true today. If you can show someone and demonstrate how you can, how you're going to help them put more money in their pocket, then your commission is not really an issue. And so that's what I had to learn. And I had to learn it because I was getting my ass kicked, on these listing appointments with them all the time. And so it forced me to do a little bit more research than I probably would have. And when I would lose, I would call and I would say, well, why did you list with them instead of me? And they would tell me every time like what it was. And I was like, holy cow, now I've got the secret. Now I know what they're doing to me. I know what they're saying what they're saying about me. I started learning all these things. And so I called them autopsies. And so I would call and do these autopsies, and I would go back and, change my process a little bit to try to overcome that. And because I was going on so many listing appointments, I could iterate faster and created a system that really was allowed me to win a higher percentage of the time than I otherwise probably would have. Right. So it's focusing on the listings. And marketing is really simple. I think a lot of people kind of complicated it and make it complicated. I remember one thing I did that was a really cool, it was a really cool thing at the time. Maybe it was my ego, okay, but that wanted this, but I felt like I needed it. And it was a magazine tear sheet that was for Broker Associate Magazine. I don't even know if the company's still around, but they did it. They come do an article and interview you, and then you're on the cover of this magazine essentially, and it's like a 4-page little magazine, and I'm on the cover of it or whatever, right? And it was like $3,000 or $4,000. It was not cheap, but I did it, and I'll never forget. I didn't know what the hell to do with the thing once I had it, right? Like it seemed like, well, I don't want to tell people to read. It's good, so I just joked about it. I was like, hey, this is good bathroom reading material if you get bored, whatever. Like I didn't know what to say, but I literally remember being on a listing appointment in MacArthur Park East. And I was competing against Pam Marion, who didn't even do a CMA at the time. She didn't even do it. And I was like, how in the world did she get listings without doing CMAs? I learned the secret to that later too. But she was.
We're going to have to get you to spill it.
I'll give you guys one of the best nuggets I ever learned. And I did pick up saving a ton of time on not doing CMAs and I'll teach you how to never do a CMA again. And you'll love it. It's great. It's one of my best little ninja moves that I use. But so they ended up they looked down at this magazine tear sheet, and then they looked up at me and they started talking to me and treating me different. And I was like, what the heck? Like, it was influence. At the time, I didn't really understand it. Today, I know I built businesses around influence and understanding the power of positioning. And what it was is I was a young kid, and you kind of hope a lot of people hired me just because my enthusiasm is what they would tell me. I did the autopsy on people that would list with me as well, because I wanted to know, what the hell were you thinking? Why did you hire me anyways? Right? Like, what did I do that worked so I could do more of that? So I would always ask them.
You want to know the good, the bad, the ugly,
exactly.
Everything.
I was like, all right, well, my enthusiasm's working, so I'll just be enthusiastic as I can be. And so that was an answer I got a lot. And they just said, and they said, they were actually another example of someone that said, we just felt like you could sell our house. You were just a lot more, excited about it than Pam was. And I was like, great, so all right, good. I'll be excited no matter what the house looks like from now on. And so, but that magazine tear sheet was the first time I recognized the power of influence and how people look at you different just based upon, something that honestly I paid for it, right? It's like, today there's still a lot of those companies and stuff out there that do this. We provide it for our clients at NAEA, and it's a powerful little tool. And so you want people to look at you as a professional. And so like that was just another little notch in the belt. But everything in marketing really comes down to, it's really pretty simple. It's reach and frequency. So no matter what it is, if it's direct mail or it was newspaper, or it's billboard, or your yard signs, for instance, are another form of marketing. Anytime somebody drives by your yard sign and it should have your photo on it, even if you're ugly, you should have your photo on it. Just that, because you are the brand, by the way. Like I have people sometimes tell me like they don't want to put their picture on the sign. I'm like, they're going to see you in person anyways. You might as well just put your picture on the sign. And so, because you're the brand, right? So in real estate, I think everybody knows this, and sometimes people forget, but you are the brand. Nobody cares what your company is. Nobody cares if you got balloons on your sign. Nobody cares if it's red or blue or white. It doesn't matter. They're hiring you, and the reason for that is, you as the agent manage the customer experience. The consumer's experience is managed by the agent, not by the company. So you could have a good experience or a bad experience at any company that you go to if you get a good agent or a bad agent. The good news is if you do a good job, they come back to you. It doesn't matter where you go, right? If you stay in front of them, they remember you. They're going to come back to you in the future. They're going to refer people to you. They're not going to be like, hey, call Coldwell Banker. That's not what happens. So they say, hey, call Jacob. That's what happens. And so so knowing that you're the brand, like Jay-Z says, I'm not a businessman. I am the businessman. That's the first thing. Understanding that it's all about impressions. So the reason why, and everybody's probably had this happen at some point in their career, you sell a house in some neighborhood and somebody in that same neighborhood calls you and says they want to sell their house. Well, why does that happen? Because every day they drove by your sign and then they came home. If they came home for lunch, then they drove by it maybe twice. If they had to pick their kids up at school, they probably drove by it 3 times. And so you got 6 impressions. If somebody leaving that neighborhood, driving by that sign every day until you sold that house and closed it. And so I understood I understood that, but I didn't understand it. I understand it now. The value in getting listings was getting me more listings. And so, because, and if you're working a lot of buyers, after the sale closes, ask your buyer if you can leave that sold sign there for 2 weeks. That's a huge way for you to, because people just know the other sign came down, yours came up and it said sold. Well, you did sell the house. So why shouldn't you get those phone calls? And so just things like that to again, focusing on listings gave me, it just started compounding my business, and my growth was really out of control because of it. And so, stop doing shit that's focused on the buy side and focus your energy and effort on the listing side. The buy side will take care of itself. You'll still do half your deals that'll be buyers. Mine were. I did half of my business was buy side. But I didn't focus on it. It happened because I got listings, and that was just a strategy that I think most people don't go all in on, and I was just going all in on it.
So Jay, even though when you were new, you were still focusing on the sell side, all your marketing, all your materials, everything was focused on just the sell side?
Correct. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. There was outside of doing open houses, but at the same time, like I was still trying to meet people in the neighborhood and see if, who had a house to sell. Those are, I don't know. I liked the listing side of the business. Once I started getting listings, I just liked it. And I liked working with buyers too, to be honest. Like I didn't mind taking buyers and showing them houses and all of that. But I really enjoyed the listing side of the business. And so everything I was doing, I was always looking for how to get more listings. And again, because I knew that, the more I got, the more I was going to get. And so that was, I think, the reason behind it.
See, I think a lot of new agents shy away from the listing side of the business because they don't know what they're doing, even on the buy side. But it seems like you fumbled your way forward through everything. And a byproduct of that is obviously you've learned how to put deals together, the contracts together. You learn how to put the CMAs together and everything there. But you compounded all of that action and everything that you've been doing to basically catapult you and allow you for that exponential growth, where one deal turned into 3 deals, into 5 deals, into 10 deals, literally by not shying away from what everybody's scared of, but walking into the fire and say, I'm going to just figure this out.
Right.
Whether I have help or not. Right.
Yeah. You got to step into the darkness. That's part of it. We're afraid to do things. We're uncomfortable, but that's where you grow. Right. And so, that was just something that, I had to do it. It was either I didn't have another job to go get. I think there was I wasn't qualified for a whole lot of things at that point. So I had to figure it out.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. Now, before you go, we're giving access to a private training we did where we revealed the top 3 niches to get listings today completely for free. So if you want access, you can go and download that training at eliteagentsecrets.com. We're regularly releasing new trainings, guides, and cheat sheets, so make sure to head over to eliteagentsecrets.com and sign up so you don't miss out.